मुझे बताइए क्या हुआ था उस समय आपको, आपकी माताजी ने क्या बताया था?
मैं तो 3 साल का था, राइट। और उसने तो जब मैं बड़ा हुआ तब उसने सब ये बात मेरी ब्रदर को, सिस्टर को बोल रही थी। तो उसने बोला था कि उसने वो टाई ऑफ किया इधर, क्योंकि पड़ जाता ना, कोई सामान तो साथ में ले ही नहीं सकता, राइट। वो जो ऑर्नामेंट था वो पहन लिया उसने और मेरे को इधर टाई कर दिया। और वो डोरी से नीचे उतर कर और स्लोली उधर वो जो बोट बदी पैसेंजर बैठते थे ना, उसमें 15-20 होते थे, तो वो बोट में वो बैठ गई। उस दूसरे आदमी ने हेल्प किया उसको ऊपर लेने का, तो मैं तो पीछे ही था। फिर वो बहुत स्लोली स्लोली जाने लगी और रेस्क्यू बोट आई और हमको 2-3 दिन के बाद रेस्क्यू किया।
तब तक आप कैसे सर्वाइव कर पाए? खाना
उसमें बोट, ये जो बोट थी ना, उसमें बिस्किट का पैकेट था और पानी का बोतल था, बस और कुछ नहीं था 4 दिन के लिए। तो वो सब, एक अच्छा आदमी था, वो सबको डिवाइड करके 2-2 बिस्किट देते थे।
आपकी उम्र 3 साल थी उस वक्त,
3 साल।
और इतना अरसा बीत जाने के बाद भी क्या वो लम्हे अभी भी कुछ
ना, मेरे को कुछ याद नहीं है। और मेरे को ये बात, कितनी बात मेरी मदर ने दूसरे को सुनाई, वो मैंने सुनी, तो उसका थोड़ा थोड़ा हमको याद है।
और आज ऐसा क्यों लगा कि आपको इस बारे में बातचीत करनी चाहिए?
है ये इस बात इसने करने चाहिए कि क्योंकि अभी ये सब पेपर में आया, न्यूज़पेपर में आया और सबको पता चला कि एक अभी बच गया है, तो हमारे वो पीछे लग गया कि तू अभी तो, मेरे को उधर लंदन आके मिला, हमारी इंटरव्यू उधर भी ली, बोलता कि अभी तो इंडिया आया तो हमको इधर को मिलना ही पड़ेगा, फिर आप सबको भी बुलाया।
आपको नहीं लगता कि मौजूदा नस्ल ये सारे हादसे को जो है भूल चुके हैं, जो कि भूलना नहीं चाहिए?
वो भूल चुके हैं, तो फिर भी काफी बूढ़े लोग हैं, वो तो याद करते हैं कि जो एक तलावा एक स्टीमर थी, उसका अंकल के अंकल थे, उसके कोई पापा थे, ग्रैंडफादर थे, तो वो सबको अभी रिमाइंडर मिल गया ना, तो भूल तो कोई नहीं सकेगा। स्टिप डूबी थी और इंडियन जास्ती था पैसेंजर उसमें।
सर उस शिप का नाम क्या था?
टिलावा, SS टिलावा।
एक बात बहुत बेसिकली आजकल ये देखने में आती है कि जब भी कोई ऐसी गैला या वीरता वाली कोई बात होती है तो उसके फिल्में बनना बहुत आसान हो गया है। आपको लगता है इस मामले पर भी इसको आम लोगों तक पहुंचाने के लिए कोई फीचर फिल्म?
नहीं, फिर अभी जो फिल्म बनता है तो फिल्म में तो 2-2.5 घंटा लगता है, तो वो तो फिल्म तो नहीं बन सकती, पर डॉक्यूमेंट्री 10-15 मिनट की बन सकती है। उसमें जिसमें जैसे आपने इंटरव्यू ली, ये लोग इंटरव्यू लेते हैं, तो वो दूसरे भी जो सर्वर 94 वाला था उसका भी इंटरव्यू लेवे, वो छोटा तो हो सकता है, फिल्म तो नहीं उतर सकती, क्योंकि फिल्म में क्या देखा है कि शिप डूबी, बम्बार्ड हुआ, पैसेंजर मर गए, वो ऐसे तो काफी फिल्म में ऐसा सीन आता है।
इस बारे में और भी कहीं बातचीत आपसे हुई है लोगों से, हुकूमत या सरकार कहीं इस हादसे को लेके?
हाँ।
इस तरह की कोई बातचीत आपसे करने किसी ने की?
वो सरकार ने तो नहीं की, सरकार नहीं की, वैसे प्रेस वाले तो अफ्रीका में भी आते थे, जिसको पता लगता था कि एक सर्वाइवल है तो आप कभी बात करते
है तो उसके फिल्में बनना बहुत आसान हो गया है। आपको लगता है इस मामले पर भी इसको आम लोगों तक पहुंचाने के लिए कोई फीचर फिल्म?
नहीं, फिर अभी जो फिल्म बनता है तो फिल्म में तो 2-2.5 घंटा लगता है, तो वो तो फिल्म तो नहीं बन सकती, पर डॉक्यूमेंट्री 10-15 मिनट की बन सकती है। उसमें जिसमें जैसे आपने इंटरव्यू ली, ये लोग इंटरव्यू लेते हैं, तो वो दूसरे भी जो सर्वर 94 वाला था उसका भी इंटरव्यू लेवे, वो छोटा तो हो सकता है, फिल्म तो नहीं उतर सकती, क्योंकि फिल्म में क्या देखा है कि शिप डूबी, बम्बार्ड हुआ, पैसेंजर मर गए, वो ऐसे तो काफी फिल्म में ऐसा सीन आता है।
इस बारे में और भी कहीं बातचीत आपसे हुई है लोगों से, हुकूमत या सरकार कहीं इस हादसे को लेके?
हाँ।
इस तरह की कोई बातचीत आपसे करने किसी ने की?
वो सरकार ने तो नहीं की, सरकार नहीं की, वैसे प्रेस वाले तो अफ्रीका में भी आते थे, जिसको पता लगता था कि एक सर्वाइवल है तो आप कभी बात कर सकता है।
तो आपकी कोई इच्छा है सरकार की तरफ से कोई मदद मिले या फिर ऐसा कोई स्मारक बने?
नहीं, ऐसी तो कोई इच्छा नहीं है, मगर ऐसे हो गया है कि ऐसा सबको लगता है कि उस सारा कॉम्पनसेशन मिलना चाहिए, मेरे को ऐसा लगता है।
ठीक है, आखिरी सवाल है मेरा सर कि थोड़ा इस बारे में, उस शिप के बारे में, उस हादसे के बारे में जो आपने अपने वालिदा या माताजी के मुंह से सुना है, उसको एक बार जो उन्होंने सुनाया है आपको, वही आप एक बार सुना दीजिए।
वो क्या हुआ है कि मेरी मदर को जो पता चला तो वो तो कभी भूल नहीं सकेगी, वो तो बहुत रोई थी, राइट। मगर वो जब किसी को बात करती थी तो खुद रोने पड़ती थी। बोलता है कि नहीं, ये ट्रेजेडी नहीं होना चाहिए, और मेरा बच्चा बच गया, बस वो उसको वो खुशी थी बस है।
क्या और भी लोग, और मतलब जो बचने वालों में से थे, कुछ नसीब आपकी वालदा थी, माता जी थी, और आपसे
मैं था, और एक वो जो 93 ओल्ड वाला था, उसने भी बात अभी आपको सुनाई ना। राइट। और अभी हम दोनों ही हैं, that's it। और इसके लिए आप सब अभी बात करेंगे तो काफी न्यूज़पेपर में आएगा, तो सब बात तो करेगा।
For us to be with one of two last known survivors of the Tilawa tragedy. Tomorrow marks the 80th anniversary of the ill-fated SS Tilawa. And so we felt that in the lead up to the commemoration, you would all be the first to hear what we have to share. So perhaps you can look at this as a dress rehearsal for the commemoration to come, and we'll give you a bit of an overview of how we got to this point. As an introductory, enjoy this 5-minute video.
In Tanzania, there was a small village called Lindi, and then from Lindi he moved to Dar es Salaam. He was working in Dar es Salaam.
So when she wrote the postcard, she wrote
So postcard was posted.
and sent to where? Which place?
Our village was Jodia in Gujarat, India.
Oh, so she wrote a postcard to.
Postcard, yeah.
He was in Gujarat.
It was in Gujarat, near Jamnagar.
Your father was in Gujarat that time at the
Yeah.
end.
So my grandmother wrote the card to Georgia to tell them, you need to notify Bapuji that we are alive, because she couldn't write the letters and everything there. They had nothing there. So she asked them to say, we're alive, you need to let him know. That's why it took so long for him to find out.
So that was in
So she was
Africa.
going to Africa to him. That was the purpose of the journey, her going there.
So how did, like from when they were rescued, yeah, when they were rescued, then how did she reach back to India?
She had to wait for her passport. She went back to Georgia in India, stayed there until she had all the papers and passports done, and then she went back on ship again back to
Africa with her husband, because my husband's father was in Tanzania. After they were saved by SS Birmingham, they were survived for 4 days. They stayed with some relatives. From the relatives, she wrote a postcard to Jodia, to her mother-in-law, where my husband's 3 siblings were with the grandmother in Jodia. So she wrote a postcard. First the grandma read full chart. They said there was a newspaper called Full Chart at that time, that many years ago. And grandma read that my daughter-in-law and grandson has died. So they were all, in depression and so on. So mother-in-law wrote a postcard to Jodia that I've survived and I'm coming, and you let in Africa know, my husband, that I am alive. By that time, the father-in-law was in complete depression that the wife has gone, the son is gone. But luckily, when he got the letter, he was glad that they have survived. My mother-in-law died from November 1942, August 43 in Jodia and Rajkot. She made the passport. We got the passport dated August 23rd August, made in Rajkot, and then she took him back to Africa. And after when she went to Africa, she had another 4 children. So they were all 8 siblings together.
Okay.
At the time, my dad was the
and
youngest.
other 4 then. So it
Oh.
was because of her bravery that we all, my rest of his brothers, wife, family, grandchildren and great-grandchildren are alive because of my mother-in-law, late Mrs. Vasant Ben Jani. Of her bravery. It's a bravery.
It's bravery.
To go with a child in the sea, dark at night, and she was saying it was a full moon night. You could see the bodies, sort of floating like flowers. Because obviously the clothes float, you see. So she said, she described that. And this message we got from his older sister, who was about.
Just for you guys to understand, he was 3 years old, but what did he learn? How did he learn about what happened and the effect it had on the family?
Well, I was only 3 years old. All the time I heard this story from my mother. and I can never forget my mother. What my mother did was, after the incident, she never left me alone. Although she had other children, but she always wanted me with her.
And just a little bit of what happened next when they came back to Bombay. I'll explain it to you all. So my grandma's come back with my dad. They're in Bombay, all being sort of moved around several places, being looked after. Back then we didn't have social media, we didn't have mobile phones, so they used to have ground cards, postcards, that she then posted to their village, and they were explaining that we are alive. So she's written this postcard, and then she's asked them to then write to her husband, my brother, to say, me and Navrinda are alive, and he's back in Africa with the other 3 children. So Dad was the youngest at the time. This all took about 6 weeks before my Babaji found out that Ba's alive and Dad's alive. But they then had to wait another 9 months before they could actually go back to Kenya, because Ba had lost everything on the ship, so they had to get a passport and everything. So it's thinking back then of how things were dealt with and not having easy access to speak to people.
Well, the only way you can do is by writing a letter. So my mother did write a letter. The letter will reach Africa to my father. It took nearly a month. Before that, my father heard about the ship sinking. So she was already very sad, and she thought me and my mother had already died. And she and everybody around in Dindi, in a small village, came to my father for condolences. And it was so sad, so everybody was comforting my father. But anyway, as long as I remember, as long as I will live, I will never forget my mother. Because she is the one who saved me. Like just tying me up with a bag and slowly came down to the boat. And the boat was so full, but they picked me up, put me in the boat, and my mother also saved. And the boat was on the sea, just floating around. And after nearly about 15 hours, luckily we were found by a ship and we were taken back to Mumbai.
Just on a final note, I just want to say, I am the eldest child of my dad. My dad was the youngest child when this happened. And because of my Ba taking that leap of faith, literally, to get onto a boat with her son, she went on to have another 4 children. And we now have, on top of the 4 already, we have another 41 members of the family, just because she took that leap of faith to survive and make sure her son's right.
But this was only because of my survival. If I didn't survive, there would not have been 41, there would be only 4 and then another children, then 4 children.
Thank you.
I mean, this has been an incredible journey for us as well, so thank you.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure.
Thanks to him.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or comments for the family?
So his mother wrote the postcard to